Trials of Osiris, or Trials as it's known in the Destiny community, is the pinnacle of Destiny 2's PvP. This mode will make you laugh, cry, sweat, swear, and pull your hair out. Sometimes all in the same match. But I mean, honestly, how else can you become a poo-flinging, literal blink shotgunning ape hunter? My name is Judge, and today we're going to talk about Trials, specifically what it is, as well as some tips to help new and returning players succeed in this punishing yet rewarding game mode. So what is Trials? Trials is a unique game mode that is available on Fridays and runs until reset on Tuesdays. In order to play Trials, you do need to visit Saint 14 in the tower and get a ticket. Out of the two available, I would highly advise getting the Mercy ticket. This ticket actually forgives your first loss, but more on that in a bit. This 3v3 competitive mode is very much like Survival, except without the extra life pool. Each match is broken up into rounds, and the first team to win 5 rounds wins the match. If you die, the only way to get back into the fight is for one of your teammates to revive you. Unlike most of the Crucible, you play on the same map all weekend, with teams rotating spawns between rounds. Now, all rounds are the same except for the heavy round, which happens after the first team wins 2 rounds. Now, looking at the card you got from Saint, you can see 7 empty boxes and 1 box checked flawless. You have to win 7 matches in order to fill your card. Sounds easy enough. Well, there are a few things you need to know. First, your initial 3 matches of every card are now skill-based. This was to prevent high-skill players from farming newer or lower-skilled players at the beginning of the cards. Yeah, that was actually a thing. After the first 3 wins, the matchmaking shifts to a win-based matchmaking. Remember when I said the game mode was unique? Well, if you can manage to win 7 matches in a row without a loss, you get an all-expenses-paid trip to the Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is a special zone with a chest that drops adept versions of the weekly featured weapon, as well as Trials Mementos, Ascendant Shards, and other goodies. Now, getting there is not an easy feat, and is something that most PvP players aspire to achieve. Regarding going flawless, if you make it to the Lighthouse, you are now part of the flawless pool. On Fridays and Saturdays, this doesn't really amount to much. However, Sundays at reset, everyone who is in the flawless pool is grouped together and only matchmake other flawless pool members. Not to worry though. After Tuesday, everyone is reset back to the normal pools. One thing to note, the current recommended power is 1570, and I would strongly suggest not stepping foot into Trials if you are under this. Also, Trials disables your artifact, so this is talking about your base light level. This number right here. Unlike normal Crucible, light level matters in Trials. This means that if you're weaker than your opponent, you will take more damage and do less damage. This doesn't mean much if you're within 5 to maybe 10 light, but outside of that, you will definitely start to notice the difference. Metas are constantly evolving and shifting in Destiny PvP. As a new or returning player, you may be unsure what weapons you need to be on the lookout for in Trials. Honestly, I would suggest heading over to DestinyTrialsReport.com. Once you're here, scroll down until you see these 2 lists. The list on the left shows specific weapons, and the list on the right shows data broken down by type. So, specific weapons that see a lot of usage typically are the best weapons at the moment. This is a great list to consult when making your Trials builds. Having said that, don't use something that is way out of your comfort zone. For example, if you're a hand cannon user in PvP, don't switch over to an auto rifle or a pulse just because you're going into Trials. This is actually way out of your comfort zone and is going to throw your aim completely off. Honestly, it's better just to hit your shots with something you're comfortable with than miss all of your shots with the most meta loadout. TLDR, usually you can't go wrong with either a pulse rifle or a hand cannon for your primary weapon and a shotgun or a sniper for your secondary. Here's some of my top picks for early and returning Trial players. For hand cannons, I would look for either the Austringer, the Ace of Spade, the Palindrome, or the Hawkmoon. For pulse rifles, I would hunt down Har's Least, No Time to Explain, the BXR-55 Battler, or the Peace of Mind. Shotguns, look for a Wastelander M5, Without Remorse, Riskwalker, or the Chaperone. And finally, for snipers, Beloved, Defiance of Yasmin, Adored, or Cloud Strike. Any of these will work. They are still some of the top PvP weapons, and they will help you out while you're trying to get comfortable in Trials. Recovery is king inside of Trials. You want to push to get as close to 100 recovery as you can. This will get you back in the fight faster than the other guy. You honestly want to spend the least amount of time hiding to get your health and shields back as possible. I would also suggest at least 6 resilience, if not more. Outside of that, you should spec into either strength or discipline. The only exception to this rule is for you hunters. As a hunter, you're going to rely on your dodge, and upping mobility decreases the cooldown on it. As a hunter, I would probably focus on recovery and mobility while trying to get your resilience as high as you can. Also, on the topic of armor, you need to be mindful of the elements on your armor pieces. Certain mods only slot into specific types of armor. I would suggest 3 arc pieces and 2 stasis pieces for PvP. They have some of the best available mods to be slotted. Speaking of mods, you want to be on the lookout for Grenade, Melee, and Utility Kickstart, as well as Powerful Friends and Radiant Light. While there are other great mods out there, you will want to check Ada every day for these. These offer stat increases or giant boosts to your neutral game. Definitely don't sleep on them. You will hear the phrase play your life a lot when it comes to Trials. What this means is you are literally no good to your team dead. Now, that doesn't mean sit in the back of the map without helping. You need to be present with your team, taking shots, putting in damage, and securing kills. Team shots are very strong and can shorten the time to kill to an absurdly low number. However, you can't do this if you're dead. Keep in mind, if you enter a fight and take damage, don't be afraid to disengage from the fight, or wait for your teammates to try to take shots. You never know when there may be enemy guardians around you that you don't see, and a poorly timed peek, re-peek, or push may just leave your team down a guardian for the rest of the round. When in doubt, fall back and play your life. You should reference your radar as much as possible. Now, this doesn't mean you should sit and stare at it, but you should be aware of the information that it provides at all times. Not every teammate is going to make the perfect call out. It's inevitable. However, the radar will always tell you something useful. Radar will let you know where your team is and around where your enemies are. This is a great way to tell if you are overextended or if your team is rotated without calling out. Alternatively, you can also use the radar to find out if the enemy team is rotating or if a single player has separated from their team. Keep in mind, when aiming, periodically come out of your sights so your radar can pop back up for a second. You won't need it for long. You just want to see if there's any new information that your team may have missed. I mentioned team shooting a few minutes ago. Destiny has a relatively high time to kill compared to a lot of other games on the market. Team shooting is a great way to lower this down to near instant deaths. Try moving around and finding different angles to look at. You need to be close to your team, but you don't need to stand on top of them. It is better to space out some, but still be close enough that you don't have to run a full marathon just to help your teammates. If you know the enemy team is in a specific position, you may want to set up and watch the lane in hopes that the enemy guardian will pop out. If they do, you want to team shoot them and drop them instantly. Push or pushing is a phrase you will hear a ton in Trials. This is when your team decides to rush the enemy team. If done effectively, this can be a great strategy to either overwhelm the enemy team or capitalize on a situation. Newer or inexperienced guardians to Trials need to be careful solo pushing, however, as experienced players can bait them into traps or less advantageous positions. I believe that making good pushes is probably one of the hardest skills to master in Trials due to the propensity of people to overcommit to a push once it's started. Not to worry though. Over time, you will learn to hone your skills and make game-winning and clutch pushes. While pushing is important, callouts are by far one of the most important things you can do in Trials. Constantly conveying information between teammates is crucial. Let's be honest, callouts win games. If two evenly skilled teams match, The one that has the most information should win. Now, you might not know all the proper callouts, and that's okay, but anything is helpful. Even beginning callouts such as, I've got radar blips outside, I see one in the hallway by A, 2 in their spawn, I have an orb down by heavy, work wonders. I would avoid saying, I have one down, as it conveys little to no information. Also saying, I need help 2 pushing my right is very confusing because your teammates need to first look around, find you, figure out what direction you're looking, and then rotate to help you defend the push. Also, while it sucks to have bullshit happen in trials, avoid cluttering the comms up with information that isn't helpful during a chaotic situation. I missed my snipe, or did you see that guy lagging, are okay to say outside of a firefight. However, if your team is pushing and you go down, just say, I got killed by a shotgun, or downed, I got sniped. Both of these are clear and short. They let your team know that you died and how. Now they know the guy with the shotgun or the sniper are down a bullet, and they can adjust their push. Saying something like, bull, that guy was lagging and I missed my shot. I would have killed him if it didn't have McDonald's Wi-Fi. That just clogs up the comms and doesn't let your team talk to each other. Let the fight play out and then complain about the connections afterwards. While Trials is challenging, it truly feels rewarding when your team wins. In the beginning, focus on the little victories. Just try to win rounds and have fun. Over time, you will get better, and you will start chaining W's. With time and practice, you will go to the lighthouse and get some awesome gold mementos to show off to your friends. Fixating on the lighthouse in the beginning will only cause misery, finger pointing, and the loss of friendships. Trials is just best when you focus on the journey and the friendships along the way. Now, with all this information, get out there and make Saint proud, and I will see you in Trials.